to that effect? I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
All right, so just to clarify, it would be my hope that the motion that we would vote to accept his resignation with regrets. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carried. Okay.
That's the most unexcited aye I've ever heard.
Pardon?
The what?
That was the most unexcited aye I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should modify the notes to say we accept with regrets and indignation, just
And tears, regrets and tears.
regrets and tears. Yeah. No. But
All right, so we do have a guest with us on the call today, and that is Ty from Liberty Environmental. Shelley, before we get to Ty, can you just briefly update us on where we're at in the process of new members? We're obviously now down by 3, and I know people have been submitting applications, but I'm not sure where we are on the vetting process of those who have already gotten those applications in.
They are still before the mayor. He's not yet told me if he will support those candidates. So we're still kind of waiting.
Okay, okay. And with that, Ty is with us today. So Ty, do you want to take a couple minutes?
David,
Yes, Bill.
I did include this in a memo from my last conversation with Frank Dombowski, but and I don't know, maybe Shelley can shed some light on it. I told him our interest in trying to broaden the age, the average age, and the representation on the EAC, so it starts to look more like the community. And he said he was going to take that up and do some kind of internal, or not internal, but have the PR person put together something that would get put out into the community to recruit people. I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard whether that has happened or not, but
Are we still expecting to be able to get together with city officials for a meeting soon?
well, if we want to discuss that for a minute, I can tell you the last thing that I know. Maybe Nicole can add something to that, but the way it was left with Frank was that Stan was going to be taking that up, and Frank had set for himself an end of June deadline. And then I think if nothing happened by then he was going to look into it. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. So I've heard,
Just thinking we should just add that issue.
yeah.
That we've got openings, we really we have some interested people. We could probably fill them all, but we're not having success. We tried some outreach to people in the Hispanic community in particular, since it's a majority, and we don't really have anybody representing that part of the population. We'd really like to have people on it, and if they could help us, that would be wonderful.
Well,
I can tell you that Scott and we actually raised this very issue with City Council last month during our annual report that Scott gave to City
Right.
Council. And I was on that call, and we talked to council about these very issues, and members of council promised to help us in that search.
Good.
We raised at the time the possibility of maybe increasing the number of open slots for members on the EAC. Regrettably, that can't
Yeah.
happen. The number is fixed by statute, not ordinance, at 7. So 7 is what it is, and we now need to work within that number.
well, yeah, these things are difficult, but I think if there's a concerted effort with the help of council and administration, maybe I was thinking about it this morning. We're looking for expertise, and maybe we have to broaden what we consider expertise. That doesn't necessarily have to be someone with technical knowledge or skills, but brings something else to the table.
I
Even
think,
in terms of a chair, somebody who knows how to chair and run a meeting and is good at doing that, as Scott was, so, okay. They would just be a neutral actor. I think it would help a lot, I think, to make that move. And one of the reasons I brought it up with Frank is I think that the administration, I'm assuming, has a better connection to a broad swath of the community than any of us do. So anyway, we don't need to belabor it, but
so I want to interject a little bit. We all have sort of a scientific / engineering type expertise, architectural, so forth. And I think that somebody that is well-versed in community outreach would be a really good addition to the group. I think that's really, it would be huge if we could get somebody that was well-versed in community outreach.
Yeah, and we actually discussed this issue during our last meeting. Since Andrew's death, there's been a void on the EAC. And, Andrew, regardless of what you thought about Andrew, he spoke for a segment of the community that's now unrepresented on the EAC. So, I hear you, Ann, I hear you, Bill, when you talk about, technical expertise. And while that's important, and we had very little technical expertise 10 years ago, but now, we need to revisit, have we swung too far, and do we need to, make sure that, for instance, someone who's, competent in community outreach is able to be a part of what we do and to assist us. So yeah, we'll certainly, continue to work with council and with the administration on filling these remaining 3 slots. And, as people come to us, approach us and suggest that they have an interest in serving on the EAC, we should certainly, encourage them to submit an application to at least get the application in, so that process can move forward. And when the mayor's office is ready to make a determination on candidates that have been vetted, we'll be ready to go.
Hey, I have one more thought real quick. I think somebody that is in the construction industry would be good as well. Since they deal with land development, and somebody that is boots on the ground in the construction field, I think would be a huge benefit.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind is, we now run the EAC through a subcommittee structure that was not in existence 10 years ago, which enables us to pull members from the community in who are not full-fledged members of the EAC, but they're willing to partner with us as sort of ad hoc members on a subcommittee to provide that level of expertise. So, I would certainly encourage all of those who have already submitted applications, but perhaps might not ultimately be appointed. And these are all folks that seem to be invested in what we do. I would encourage them to stay actively engaged with us, because there's certainly a need for your expertise. And we would appreciate the willingness to be able to reach out to you to ask you to partner with us on some of our subcommittee work. So Ty, you're with us today. Kathy, I see your hand.
I wanted to make one more brief comment on this, and it also brings in an issue about outreach. I represented the EAC at the postponed Earth Day celebration in City Park, and was there at the pavilion. And I did prepare a PowerPoint, technically and ended up being unable to display that, but I made a handmade sign and so forth. But I think we should do more of that. Even though it was not a good day and was threatening to rain and all of that, and it was a day people didn't know was Earth Day because it really wasn't. I was able to talk to several dozen people and explain what the EAC is and what it's doing, and got a lot more interest, but was also interest than I expected. People that really wanted to learn more about it and explain more about it. And even sort of a suggestion that if there were projects and where can they find out what we do and so forth. So I had the website and so forth available. But I just along those lines, I think that getting someone in communication and outreach and activism, and us taking a more, making sure that we don't pass up opportunities like that. And we need to have our own, we need to get our logo, and we need to have a banner that we can hang at events like that, so that it's, even if we don't have anything else to show, we would have our name professionally looking and available. So I second what Ann's suggesting, and that's really the new way since the pandemic for doing employment anyway. That they're urging people, the new studies are saying, urging people to focus on skill sets and talents rather than specific content and specific jobs, and to look for people that bring either like communication, or like to work on teams, or like to do internet work, or whatever it is, that those kinds of things are more important than the actual category. So we can be a little broader, I think, in our thinking as well.
Good. Okay, Ty, if you're still on, the floor is yours. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm still on. So my name's Ty Wheeler. I work here at Liberty Environmental in the city, based right here at 5th and Penn. I started here a little under 2 years ago now. And previously I worked as an EHS manager at Uwassa Battery, which is up in Laureldale, Pennsylvania. And I was there for about 4 years. So as you know, my colleague Chris Kern was on the committee for maybe 3-4 years. And when his time was up, Jim Sinelli, who I'm sure most of you know, is one of our principals. He came up, he reached out to me. You know, he knows that I'm based in the Reading office. I live locally. And he just, talked to me about this, and I talked to Chris a little bit. So, I figured why not jump on and see what you guys do and see what you're all about. So that's just a real brief kind of history of where I've been and how I got here today.
And, we at the EAC have had a long history with Liberty, with Jim and, many of his staffers over the years. So, we certainly appreciate your willingness and Jim's willingness to continue to partner with us going forward, because there are many times where, we need outreach to professional geologists or professional engineers with the work we do. And, it's great to know we have, a local resource in you and others in the community that we can turn to.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And I should have gotten a little more specific. So my specialty at Liberty is more in the environmental compliance field, with permitting and reporting and those things. But obviously, like you said, we have a lot of professional geologists, we have some engineers and whatnot that I can use as a resource when needed.
Great.
So do you do permitting for air, water quality, all of the above?
Yeah, mostly, definitely a lot of air permitting. I work with Gavin Bebuck here. He's my direct boss. So a lot of air permitting, stormwater. We do a lot with stormwater, a lot of sampling, permitting, some wastewater permitting, and yeah, those are probably the biggest fields that we focus on.
Any other questions for Ty?
Well, I do have just not necessarily a question, but have you heard of the Berks County Water and Sewer Authority? I mean, the association. It's run through
I've heard of it. I'm sorry, I've heard of it. I'm not overly familiar with them though.
Yeah. So they are heavily involved in all the permitting because of wastewater and stormwater and, well, water quality, but also with wastewater. So it sounds like it's right up your alley.
Sure.
Okay, well, Ty, you're welcome to stay with us. We typically run till about 1:30, and hopefully that'll give you a better idea of what we do, what we're all about, and where you might be able to help us out.
Yeah, certainly. I'll be on till the end.
Okay, great. So with that, the next item on the agenda is the city's sustainability initiative. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the city's new sustainability manager, Nicole Judge. So Nicole, welcome. Thanks for being with us. And if you could introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about where you see the sustainability initiative moving forward.
All right, thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Again, I think I had a chance to meet most of the EAC members so far. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Nicole Judge, the new sustainability manager, started with the city at the beginning of May, so fairly recently. Since then, I've had time to really dig into what's been going on and what actions my predecessor was able to accomplish and kind of build on that, as well as the work that the EAC has done with the resiliency plan in cooperation with ICLEI. Where we stand now is we're currently in draft for a new, what we're calling the Climate Resiliency and Sustainable Development Plan, which is building on the Climate Resiliency Plan draft that was submitted to the DEP in June of last year, but will be more of a consolidated plan that will include some of the other elements of sustainability, which we are narrowed down to what we're calling the Sustainable Six, which includes greenhouse gases and energy, waste, water, mobility, public health and quality of life, and community and economic development. Yesterday, we had a stakeholder mapping session where we were able to map out who will be the key internal and external stakeholders in the Sustainable Six working groups to support each of these separate categories. And we have a pretty substantial list. I guess my ask to the EAC would be if you could maybe brainstorm some external agencies that would maybe have interest or be able to contribute to any of these categories for inclusion on future meetings. I will be able to share much more in detail what the plan is coming up in the next few weeks. Like I said, it's still in draft. Still have to run it by the administration, and then I'll be able to share some additional details and a much more comprehensive plan of where we're going with that. But just excited to be here. We've got some really exciting things coming up, some things I can share a little bit later in the meeting. Just happy to be able to work with all of you, and nice to meet you.
And, we're obviously a resource for you and your team, Nicole. So, to the extent, there's ever an issue that comes up where, you think, we could play a research role for you, vet some issues, for you, that's what we're here for. We're small in number, but, there is a significant amount of technical expertise that we can draw upon to help you with your efforts. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And believe me, I will definitely need your help. So stay tuned for that.
So I just have one comment, Nicole,
Sure.
and that is like from my years of experience, I found one of the most important pieces of sustainability or resilience, I like to call it resilience, is policy making. And so much can be done with policy to help move things forward. And I don't know, like if you're working on drafts for certain types of policy that would encourage that type of thing, or if you're even allowed to do something like that in your role.
Yeah, so that's definitely part of the works that the working groups the S6 working groups will be doing. So, we'll have members from across the administration, from codes, zoning and planning. The idea is to have very comprehensive group that will be able to work on policy in each of those to support the initiatives and the objectives under each of those categories. So that will definitely be part of it.
And one more thing, I know the Smart Growth Alliance and the county is setting up committees to utilize the windfall of money they've gotten from the federal government. And then, there are townships, and I'm sure Reading is receiving some too. But they want to look at a county level, look at some sort of, matching and encouraging the use of the sort of matching funds, whatever the city or municipality got versus, what the county got, and try to work together to create a really robust program. And they're setting up the committees now, so it might be something you want to look into to get, like sustainability and resilience in the forefront of the usage of that money.
Excellent
Can I
suggestion.
make a comment on that, please?
Yeah.
Okay, from a council perspective, and we are very concerned about how the decision-making is occurring regarding the use of the money. So everyone has, and understandably so, very good projects, very good direction, but there isn't seeming to be a coordinated plan. I am working with a fellow counselor because we want to be able to know council has approval of these because we want to see them strategic. And I think you bring up a good point, like the county's working on something. We have no idea from a council perspective what the county's doing. So we'd like to bring the commissioners together and talk about whether we can do some collaborative projects, because we see this as a great opportunity and really for a legacy projects, things that last. Okay. And I think that fits into sustainability. So I would think out of this group, if you could at least come up with what your priorities might be. And then I don't know how, Nicole, whether that's for you to communicate to your department, or because I don't know what the process is like, how the city's determining or the administration is determining how they're recommending the uses of the funds.
Yeah, I know that the county really wants to work with the city and the local governments. The city's, much larger than a lot of the townships, of course, but I know that they're trying to set something up and they're creating committees to do so. So a coordinated effort. And I think it's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Well, I'm very encouraged to hear that that's happening at the county level. So it's important that the city can reflect on that. Now, is that just regarding the environmental issues? Are you seeing that across the board for other programs?
Well, it's it was discussed at the Smart Growth Alliance meeting.
Mhm.
And so that's all encompassing. It's real estate, it's sustainability, but there's a lot of crossover.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Nicole?
Kathy? I think you're on mute.
She's on.
It bounced on and off. Okay, so I just wanted to follow up on what Ann and Marcia raised briefly. I know that one of the specific pots of federal money that is coming to the city relates to the lead exposure issue that we've been dealing with over the years. So we want to make sure that we at least highlight that one. And there are other things we should, but there is a particular pot of money that will be coming on that issue. So we want to make sure we share what we know and think is important in that regard.
Yeah, from what I understand, the county is being very strategic about it and utilizing it the best way possible. And I was really, really happy to hear about that.
Mhm.
If we're gonna enter the conversation, Marcia, this would for you to think about too. There was a number in the paper the other day of what the Reading School District is getting. Not that they'll necessarily listen to us or to council, but along the lines of sustainability, I mean, it's a mind-boggling number. I can't remember what it was, but I remember thinking, wow.
I wrote it down and I can't remember
Oh,
exactly.
I don't
either.
know. It's equal to the annual.
$67
I
million.
mean, what's that, David?
$67 million. I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's.
Thank you. I should have
Yeah.
added that.
That-
You know, hopefully as they go through the problem, I mean, I imagine mostly that'll be to tend to the, you know, the underfunding of facility maintenance and stuff. But I mean, there are restrictions to the funds too. But I think if we're going to speak to it regarding the city, then we might want to, you know, go on record with the school district suggesting that they think in terms of the environment sustainability when they start making decisions of where to spend the money. Anyway.
Well, I know that the school district that I represent, I'm on a board of, we utilize the money. It had to be specific to types of infrastructure in the building, like air quality and things of that nature. So that's how we're spending the money on HVAC and you know, the non sort of glossy things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
purify the air.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
it could involve piping too. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that the school district doesn't have a lot of latitude of where to spend the money. Maybe it's
Yeah,
personal.
we received, our little district received like 2.5 million or something like that. And it gets gobbled up pretty fast when you're putting in HVAC systems.
Mhm.
And I think those, my husband's on the school board, and I believe that those are the kinds of things, the weather's, I mean, they do relate, and they should, I think we should, you know, in thinking about what we think strategically ought to be done with some of this stimulus money and infrastructure money, certainly, I mean, HVAC and weatherization and, you know, better air systems all have to do with sustainability and resilience, and especially, and if they focused on that, but it needs to be important that that's a priority as they're selecting the kinds of systems they need to put in to upgrade the school facilities.
Yeah, and at the county, it's a very broad-based type of committees that they're setting up. It's, you know, it's not just one thing, it's several things because there are many applications for this money. It's much less restricted than the original money that came out.
Mhm. Just a comment as far as the non-restrictions, I think that's what we have to be careful of because we need to create priorities with certain local guidelines, because if you have everything unrestricted, then it can become a real free-for-all.
Yeah.
And
And
as
it's
much as
nice
it
that-
sounds good, that can be a nightmare when you're talking about $67 million.
Yeah, from what I understand, they are really doing a top-notch job so far in figuring out how to organize the money, because we have a while to spend it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be spent tomorrow.
Yeah. Not to prolong the conversation, but Nicole, you mentioned the stakeholder list that you've made. You know, oftentimes, and I think even when we had those 3 Zoom sessions, whenever that was, I'm not sure the school district was represented in those conversations, but I mean, talk about a large stakeholder.
Right.
We have included them, yes.
Good. Yeah, okay, yeah, and there may be a, you know, either somebody from the board or somebody from the administration who's, you know, who would be a good person to participate, so. Good.
Okay, well, great discussion on sustainability. You know, going back 10 years ago, although sustainability was on the EAC's radar, there really was no office within the city to help facilitate the types of programs that we're talking about today. That's changed within the last 5, 6, 7 years. And, you know, sustainability has become much more of an institutionalized concept within the city that, you know, is now seems to be surviving personnel changes. So there is a lot of work to be done. You know, we've made good progress, but still a lot of work ahead of us. So we look forward to working with you, Nicole, and your team going forward. Okay, moving on to other old business items on the agenda. There are a number of things to talk about, and let me just kind of jump around a little bit here. And perhaps we can start with Ann and Kathy on our signage and funding issues for funding signage. Where do we stand with that project?
So we're at the point where we need to have a logo. They're ready to go down in Philadelphia as far as that's concerned. And I think the idea is 3 signs, and we found locations for those almost. And except for, you know, we're hoping to find a tree trench. But the logo is a big piece. I ran into someone at a meeting the other day, and I asked him, I know he's a very good graphic artist, and I asked him what his fee would be to design a logo for the EAC. And he said that he would just charge $500. So I don't know if anyone's interested in that or not, but.
No, we're not interested in that right now. I had something going and we had a meeting was had and started over. We started over with you and Bethany had a plan. Bethany hasn't been able to move forward with it. It was to use the graphics people that have done some good work for other city organizations. So we're going to stick with, and she hasn't been able to do it because of the Earth Day things. So I feel we should stick with it and not start over with I know graphic artists too. I could even design something myself, but let's, I'll defer to what the last decision of the committee was, which was to let Bethany try to work with those people. I'm sorry she's not here because she said she was going to do some things this week in that regard to get it moving. And was hoping to have something for us today, but apparently she wasn't able to do that.
Well, that sounds like a good idea, Kathy. I just thought I would put it out there because I ran into.
No, I appreciate it, but I just don't think we need to stay focused and give people a chance to finish what they're doing with somebody, or tell them that if they can't do it in the next so many weeks, then we're going to move on and do something else.
Yeah, it just, I know that she's busy doing other things and she's not a graphic artist per se. And I thought.
But she's not worked with, that's the last decision that was made and we need to give her the chance.
Okay.
I feel strongly about that.
I just.
Because
put it out there.
We lost a lot of time by starting over. So.
Yeah.
We
and you put a lot of effort in too. So I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. But I don't want to do it again. We can't afford the time to do it again unless, and I just feel strongly we should we can give Bethany a date, a timetable that we need to have something by next meeting, or we'll need to find some other way to do it. I think that would make sense.
Okay.
Well, our next meeting is not until August the 10th, but it would be great to,
let's get it in July.
Before then that she's either able to help us or not.
Right.
So,
well, I just talked to her on Sunday at length at the Earth Day thing. So, and she seemed confident that she was going to get something wrapped up and to us in a week or two.
Okay.
So, I'll take the responsibility for getting back to her and sharing that we need to move, because we really do need to move forward. We need the logo for a lot of things. And now, Shelley was something else that Ann raised. I'm trying to think what it was. Shelley was going to check on, I know, one of the 3 sites for the first sign was going to be a rain garden that the city was installing. And Shelley had gotten further information about where it was going to be installed. Is it possible for you to summarize that in a sentence or two, Shelley? It was Stone Cliff.
Sure. One is not in the Stone Cliff parking lot as it originally was. It's been relocated slightly, but it's in the same general area. It's in the right of way, so we don't have to get special permission to use that space. The other is adjacent to a community garden that already exists near the Warren Street bypass. So it's on the side that has the blockades that you can't drive on that side. So it sits up the hill and in that neighborhood.
So which one do you think would have the most foot, bike, and people traffic? Yep.
Muted, Shelley.
You're more familiar with the location than I am in, and the history of all of that and where people go in the city and stuff.
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on who you're trying to target. The one that's next to the community garden is going to get people who are using that garden space to learn more about how to do rain gardens.
Right.
The other one I think is going to get more non-resident traffic as people are going back and forth to the skate park and to the trail that's nearby.
Any thoughts about, that's why I wanted Shelley to share that, because I wanted to get feedback from all of you about who we most want to target with our first sign about rain gardens.
I feel like putting it next to community gardens would be like preaching to the choir. And I would like to reach out to people that have no clue.
I don't know that that's necessarily true.
No,
No, I don't think, I mean, I think people that participate in community gardens they may be keyed in or interested in one piece, but may not think about, I mean, I think most laypersons, you say rain garden, they're gonna, it's like, what? And I have to remind myself time and again, what are we talking about? But, I mean, I'm wondering how much more are we talking about if we just do both of them? I mean, we don't have to limit ourselves to 3.
No, we don't. And or we could pick one to be the first one and have that one be their 4th sign.
Yeah.
The other one be our 4th sign.
Where's the community garden again? Sorry, Shelley.
Warren by
Where is it?
Pips.
Warren
No,
Street.
community garden is where?
Community garden is just off the Warren Street bypass, and it is an existing community garden. It's not a new one.
Oh, that's not one of the conservancy gardens. This is an older one.
I don't know who manages that one. I'm not sure about that.
I think it's Burke's Nature.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Burke's Nature.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it exactly over there?
Is this near Empire, Shelley?
I think I sent a map out
Yeah.
to the committee soon after the green infrastructure meeting. If you want me to take a couple minutes to find it, I can share it on my screen.
No, all right. So rather than do that, I mean, maybe we should. I didn't look at it. I'm
We
sorry.
should all go back and look for that.
Yeah, and rather than prolong the discussion, maybe we can.
I looked at it and now I don't remember.
Via email, we can weigh in, based on the location.
Mhm.
If it's a site that is really going to be only people using the garden, that's kind of limited exposure. I mean, Stone Cliff is where, there's a lot of people that use that park. So,
Well, why don't we say Stone Cliff? We don't have to make a final decision until we have the logo, which will be another month anyway. So why don't we put Stone Cliff in, but have number 4 be the Warren Street bypass, just for now. And then
so
if everybody would give feedback on which one of those they'd prefer to have us do first. And we can also make a decision that we want to do 4 signs too, but let's at least get the plan we had implemented.
yeah, I would support that. To go with Stone Cliff and, then decide to add another one at some other point in time. So we can. keep
Yeah,
the
you get all
process
sorts
going.
of traffic there. You get cyclists, you get skateboarders, you get walkers, you get all people that are picnicking. Lots of traffic.
All right, so I think we know what we're doing there on the signage proposal. Nothing's really going to happen until we meet again in August, but hopefully by then we'll have a number of things finalized that we can take some formal action.
Well,
For an action item, can we set like 2 weeks for Bethany to let us know if she can get it done in a month or so?
Yeah,
Kathy
I will
does-
do that. I will do that, and I will also commit to send out a summary. Since we don't have a meeting, you can all read a summary on where we are on getting these things tied up, and I'll summarize from Shelley's good notes about our last meetings, where work was done on all of the issues related to the signs.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, Kathy.
A one-pager kind of summary.
Yep.
And if Bethany is comfortable with some, I don't know, if she thought she could get it done by now, maybe in another 2 weeks she could, but that could be circulated. Maybe,
Yes, yes.
maybe we're all comfortable. We can actually make a decision and either make a decision or at least be prepared to ratify it.
Yeah,
since
we
it's
can-
at the August meeting, so we could keep this moving. I mean,
Yeah. I don't want to lose the summer because we want to get the signs in while people are still walking around. So yeah, I will definitely try and get her to decide, whether she can do something in the next 2 weeks and get it going so that we would have a draft to look at again and hopefully either finalize or get final comments on in about a month so that we'll be ready. We can move forward and then ratify it in our August meeting. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and also, there's a piece where, the people doing the work and implementing the graphics and creating
Yeah.
the signage need lead time as well, so.
Right, and that was the other thing Bethany set up was that facilities could actually do the building of it. Of the sign itself, that would then have the vinyl sheet that has the educational information on it applied to it. So,
You mean like the base?
yeah, the base, the
Yeah,
sign without the signage part, the base.
okay,
of the
yeah.
sign. And so there's those two things that I need to get to her about where she is. Shelley was going to check on whether we needed any other permissions from the solicitor. Did we get anything back from our counselor?
I have not, so I will follow up with them.
Okay, because we want to make sure that if there's anything else we need to do to get approval from the city to put these are all on city property on purpose because we thought we could do it faster. But so Shelley will check on that and we'll be all set. So that should conclude what we need on that unless someone has questions.
Great, sounds like we have an action plan on that one. So Kathy, you're actually the point person on just about all the other items under old business here. So
Okay,
maybe we can start with the invasive plant noxious weeds initiative.
we're still postponing that one.
Okay, yep, I'm looking forward to the tour, so.
Yep, nothing's changed. I just need to get time with Linda Kelleher and Lester about my plan to do some education, get council and others like EAC people to do a little walkthrough, see some of the invasives that have proliferated, explain a little bit why that's a problem and get some ideas on the best ways to change this problem without getting people upset and angry. So that's what the hope is to do. And then we can also do some improvements to our ordinances. But I think that the education and awareness needs to happen first.
Great. I know I, for one, am really looking forward to the walking tour. So anxious for that one to be set up. Urban Ag Victory Garden Task Force, Kathy, any update there?
Yes, I Oh, go ahead, Shelley. Go for it.
We had the ribbon cutting for the new Oak Brook Community Garden on Friday afternoon. So we have added a new garden.
Great.
Yeah, and we got some publicity from WFMZ for that, so that's wonderful.
Yes, I had the occasion to talk with Lucine Sahelnik, and she just wanted me to share that she really appreciated the efforts we had made on that, and she was also at the Oak Brook opening and was very excited about it. I just felt that our networking kind of support and putting it on our website and just helping to get the word out over the last 2 years was helpful to the community. And that's the kind of facilitation we think we're good at, and sometimes, don't appreciate this a little bit can go a long way.
Great. So Shelley, maybe you can remind me where we're at. I think it was at last month's meeting. We had a presentation by Ty's colleague, Andy Fetterman, or maybe it was even 2 meetings ago, from Andy Fetterman at Liberty and Deb Millman with the Chamber about the city brownfield sites requirement to hook up to the public water system. And I know there was some additional homework that needed to be done, and I don't recall if that was on us, if that was on Andy or Deb. Where do we stand with that initiative?
I believe that was discussed at the meeting I did not attend, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge on that.
My recollection is that Deb Millman was going to get us more of a summary and outline of how they saw the project unfolding, and I don't believe we've gotten anything.
All right, so you know what, let me take the initiative to follow up with Deb. I'm actually working with her on some other projects too.
Okay, good.
I can find out from her where she stands and if there's anything else she needs from us to help move that forward.
Right, I wanted to make sure that no one else had received anything either, because
Yeah, I've heard nothing since that
I
last
talked to her,
presentation.
right.
Okay. All right, so there are 2 other items under old business. Bethany isn't with us today, and Kathy has already given us, somewhat of a synopsis of Earth Day. Anyone else who was at Earth Day who wants to add anything about how it went this year? Or what we could do better next year?
Okay, I can share a little bit. Scott was there. He came and visited me at our booth. Nicole and I were sharing a booth, so I got some extra time with Nicole. It was well organized. It was well managed. There was good music. There were good other events like a fashion show, and I think there were dressed up dogs. There were whole lots of fun things for people to do and be part of. The only problem was that it wasn't well attended. Now, it looked less well attended than it was because they also had to, I think because of the pandemic, we had all of our booths very far apart, like they're mostly 30 to 50 feet from one booth to another, and there were probably 50 different booths. So you really had to trek. There were several rather elderly people, hot calling the kettle and all that, but there were several older people, less physically able than I am, who were really struggling, and were trying to get a sense of all the people that were there and just weren't going to be able to make it. I think that was to protect us all and be safe. But if I would change that for, encourage whoever's going to do it to change that for next time, to put things a little closer. There was quite a bit of important interaction between people running the booth. So even though there weren't a lot of people coming to the Earth Day from outside, a lot of the people who had booths went around and talked to each other. So learn more about different partners and possible networking opportunities. So I thought it was all very worthwhile and very good. It was unfortunate it was on June, whatever it was, June 8th or 9th or whatever it was, instead of April 22nd, which people know is Earth Day. And it just being a bad day, the people who were just using the park, there weren't many people using the park who weren't there intentionally for it. And it was so spread out that it made it seem not terribly well attended, but it was, people that went really seemed to be pleased, made lots of comments to me about how nice it was, how interesting, how much they'd learned. Had a couple, met a few people who were like interns from Penn State, very interested in learning about all the different people and groups that are involved with sustainability and environment in the Reading area. So I thought it was great.
Great. Okay, if there's nothing else on Earth Day, the only other item under old business, and this one's been on the agenda for a while, concerns our memorial for Andrew. Shelley, I don't recall what the holdup was with this one. Were we waiting for some feedback from Lester? Was funding an issue? I mean, we talked about planting a tree for him. I just don't recall where we're at with this.
So I recently got an email from Lester. The tree was planted in April when the weather broke. And it is in Eggleman's Park. It is along Hill Road near the row of hedges and is an exclamation London plane tree. So
Oh,
that
yay.
has been planted.
So
Still
are
very-
we putting a plaque on that?
No.
No plaque?
Mm-mm.
We can't put a plaque?
Okay.
No, that's my question to Shelley. Can we put a plaque there?
You have to apply to the Memorial Review Committee, but I mean, that would be up to if someone wants to take that ball and run with it. Because the plaque wouldn't go on the tree itself, you'd have to have a separate standing slab of some type with the plaque on it.
Or even if we're not doing a plaque, I mean, I think we should do something as the EAC to memorialize this planting, you know, whether it's all of us agreeing to meet up there at a certain time. I mean, it's great the tree's been planted, but I just think there needs to be something else, I guess, that we do to formalize the planting. And again, it could be something as simple as meeting up there and then at our next meeting, you know, reading into the minutes, you know, we all appeared, you know, at the planting site to honor Andrew. I mean, and then we can write something. I don't know how we do it, but I think something more than just the planting needs to happen. Kathy.
I just wanted to suggest perhaps we could have the August or September meeting. I know that means you'd have to re-sunshine it, but we could have the meeting at Engelman's. Andrew always liked to go to the parks for meetings and thought we should do more of it. And then we could include that at our meeting there, and
Sure.
it would be an all-in-one memorial.
Yeah,
I would really love to place a plaque if we can. I think that's an important piece of it, to memorialize him.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it seems like there should be something more than getting a report at a meeting that a tree was planted.
Mhm.
I served with him least of everybody, but it feels like we should.
Yeah.
If they won't show up, I agree with that, but I think we should look into what's involved with getting a plaque. And
Yeah, so can we ask Shelley to find out whether we're allowed to, what we have to do? Plaques are expensive, but they're not, you know, we have some money left in our budget, so we could do that. I would agree, so.
And there are plaques that are specific for trees that are relatively easy to install.
Yep.
All right, well, this is great news. I mean, this has been on our agenda for a while, understandably with COVID and time of year and all of that. So, but it's certainly great to hear that the tree is finally in. I get up that way quite a bit, so I'll have to make it a point to
Yeah,
stop in.
and
Take a look.
London plane, that's true.
Yeah, great. All right, anything else under old business? I think we've covered everything that's on the agenda.
Also known as sycamore, by the way.
Well, actually, they're different. It's a different tree.
Yeah,
Yeah. But they look the same. They'll trick you every time.
All right, moving on to new business. There's nothing actually on the agenda for new business. Is there anything from the members that they would like to be added to new business for discussion today?
Well, like I said, the county has kicked in with a sustainability, or not sustainability, a Smart Growth Alliance and group that's run by David Hunter. And it's been, they've been working on real estate issues right now, but I think it's something that we should, well, I attend, so I attend on my own, always have. So, but I can report back on that. But I did my reporting, there was a lot of discussion about the money, but at the last meeting, and then making, real estate more viable in Berks County, that type of thing. But it all intersects.
So maybe what we can do is simply add that to our list of project updates going forward. So Shelley,
Yeah.
make that a separate line item, and then Ann can make that report month to month. Anything else under new business? Okay, if not, we have some, and we're not
Nicole
going to
has her hand up, David.
Oh,
Sorry, I just had
Go ahead,
someone pop in.
yes,
Um,
Nicole.
Yes, so I just wanted to provide an update to the committee that the city has joined a program from in partnership with the Department of Energy, but it's organized by PAYDEP and their energy department for a cohort of publicly owned and operated wastewater treatment plants. It's an energy efficiency program. They will be providing a free energy assessment by a third-party qualified energy auditor. And they will provide free training for our employees, which will also give them operator credits. They will also be inputting all the data obtained from the program into Energy Star portfolio for us, and helping us to come up with an energy efficiency management plan for the plant. That's at no cost to us. And in return, we are just going to be providing them 5 years of data, as well as lessons learned from participating in the program and agreeing to participate in the stakeholder meetings.
Oh, that's awesome. Wonderful.
Excited.
Yeah, I would be very interested in following that if you could plan to share with the EAC whatever milestones happen in that process.
Absolutely. I will provide project updates as they occur. We're scheduled for a kickoff, I believe, in July.
So I would like to add one more thing. I was kind of hoping to tap into Scott's resources pertaining to the electric charging stations and that type of infrastructure, and how we can pursue that type of thing in Reading. Have you worked on anything like that, or are you planning on working on anything along those lines?
It was one of the original sort of strategic planning items that we had as the EAC, but partly because it was suggested by Kevin Lugo. And it was a focus of of what concrete things can we do in the near term. And when doing that, the draft resiliency plan, he included having at least one charging station in each of the city parking garages. And I don't know whether that's sort of the last I knew about it. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone, maybe I'll reach out to Scott and find out if there's anything that we can sort of tap into at the federal level. Because I know that they're discussing.
You're looking
it.
for programs, or you're looking for information on EV chargers?
No, just looking for programs where we can implement and then utilize smart engineers like yourself afterwards.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, and I had my hand raised earlier and I just listened, but, I had asked Kevin Lugo, I think in my first meeting before he left, is, you're going to get a list of energy projects. You're going to get money. You're going to get other projects from the wastewater treatment plant, but it comes down to, at some point, how do you prioritize those and make decisions of the impact of the projects? And, I look at these projects under a sustainability umbrella, and yes, you have to address, if you do HVAC or other type projects, you have to address the COVID measures and the stuff that the funding's allocated for. But there's deferred maintenance items you're going to take care of. If you take care of old inefficient equipment, you're addressing energy reduction. So there's an impact on operating costs, and there's life cycle impacts. And it's how do you make the decision as which is the biggest bang for your buck and where do you start? Because there's probably a lot of different places that you can start.
Yeah, and I just, from like this is not my wheelhouse necessarily. I just know from a personal point of view that I really want to get 100% electric vehicle. I want to be the first in line to get the Ford F-150 when it comes out next year. The truck. So I'm thinking, well, I'm hoping there'll be charging stations. And, it's like the cart before the horse kind of thing. It's like it needs to happen. I feel like all these gas vehicles are going to be dinosaurs.
And we have the executive order, right? Wolf put out the executive order that calls for, now that's at the state level, but they're dealing with the same thing. We're involved with 6 GISA projects now, which are projects that generate cash flow and pay for themselves. And the state's having similar conversations. They're putting in charging stations for all of these projects. They don't have a payback, but they're putting them in for visibility because they want to provide leadership. And for example, the one that we're doing is PennDOT District 3 and 8. And the discussion for PennDOT was someone's got to put the infrastructure in. Let's make I-81 an electric charging corridor. If we're going to make the impact, we've got to make availability of chargers so that people can buy these vehicles and then charge the vehicle.
Yep.
So I think they're seductive because they're kind of easy to grasp. But I would ask Nicole, and maybe this is what she's going to speak to. I mean, it seems to me that the priorities should come out of whatever Nicole and the team that she and Beth have assembled establish as places to look first. But correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole.
Yes, Bill, that is our plan. So, as I shared with you a little bit, we have a framework under this sustainable 6 categories. And under each of those, we have current projects, proposed projects, of all this, all the energy projects, EV vehicles, all of those. The intent is to get these working groups together to perform a materiality assessment in what's going to have, the most impact for our stakeholders as far as prioritizing those projects. And some that we haven't thought of yet. Because as Brian said, there's a million things to do, but how do you get the most bang for your buck? So that's really going to be our focus. And in regard to the EV stations that Anne brought up, I have had some preliminary conversations because, you know, there is the rebate through PA Driving Forward that offers up to $9,000 per dual charging station. So, I mean, it is something that we're looking into. We're just trying to remain focused and as Brian said, you know, prioritize to make sure that we're getting the most out of our investments.
That sounds good.
You know, there are three at the Doubletree garage, which is parking authority owned. You know, even though I think this could be approached strategically in setting priorities, I mean, maybe that through some funding process like that, a separate track to be worked on with the parking authority, seeing if it seems like the new leadership is interested in innovation. And I mean, 9,000 is quite a bit for a charging station. So, you know, maybe they can tap some source of funding totally independent of what process the city is following and go ahead with that. I mean, anything would be an addition, a better situation than we have now. But maybe this is something the parking authority could take under its wing and look at.
It'd be nice to throw that in their lap for sure. We're putting a lot on Nicole's plate, I think.
Well, but this is probably part of the conversation already, and I'm sure they're going to be a stakeholder in this stuff too.
Yeah, they will be on our mobility team, definitely.
Okay, we have about 20 minutes left before we hit our 1:30 cutoff. We actually need to go into executive session for members only for about the last 10 minutes of our meeting today to discuss an issue that concerns a petition that's been filed with the city seeking to amend the city's ordinances to include an environmental provision. So more about that later, but you know, we've got about 10 minutes to talk about some of our project updates, and we don't need to go through all of these because not all of these are kind of front and center right now. But I will call on just some of you. I'll kind of start out with the BCTV program. I did talk to Nicole about this during our green subcommittee meeting last week. Our next BCTV program for the EAC is later in July. I think it's the 4th. July actually has 5 Thursdays this year. I think it's the 4th Thursday of the month at 6:30, but we don't need to do it live. We can always pre-record it. So I'm going to reach out to Nicole in advance within the next week or two to coordinate just how we want to structure that presentation. It'll be an opportunity to introduce her to those who watch our program and to talk about the sustainability initiatives that she's been working on. So that's the update on BCTV. I know we have Scott Bachman and Bob Gensimer on the call today, so I don't know if they had any updates on MS4 issues or on our city-owned dams. Scott or Bob? They may be unmuted.
Hello, this is Scott.
Hi,
So we don't really have any updates on the dams at this point. Bob also says that he doesn't really have anything to report as of now. I did do a stormwater inspection of the property at 615 South 16th and a half. They installed some stormwater features as their prints needed, and I guess for being up on the mountain and all that. That's about the only thing I've really done on that side.
What was that address again?
615 South 16th and a half.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know if you've seen a.
That was where they wanted to put in the playground, right?
They put in a sports court, is what they call it, on the prints, and that actually has 2 drains in it to take the water away from the mountain. And then also in their backyard, they put another from all the rainwater from the roof, and also coming down the mountain, they put something in the backyard as well.
So that's where that large house, well, it's not that large, but it looks large. A house was built.
Yes.
Okay.
Scott, do you know what the status of the Bouchon Dam RFP was? Is-
We don't have anything updated on that at this time.
Okay. Could we get an update next time just to know where it is? Because it's been sort of through several administrations and we're losing track of what's going on with that. And I
Progress had stopped.
do get
with the last-
questions. I just want to say, I do get questions from the public about that fairly frequently. I had one about 2 weeks ago, so I'd like to know definitively where we are.
I can reach out to Tim Kroll to see if he knows anything, but at this point, I haven't heard anything one way or the other. What's happening after it got put on pause?
Right.
Scott, are you doing testing of outfalls?
I have done some inspections, but we have not tested any of them.
Did you test them initially when you got your original permit, or is the permit even approved yet?
We did not test initially, but I think the permit's in process.
We did not test initially. That was prior to me. We did just get our permit.
Oh, you
We
did?
just
Okay.
just got it.
So how many outfalls are you going to have to test?
So there's a lot of gray area. We've been working with Cedarville Engineering on that. There's an initial list that I had from before. I believe that came from the DEP, but then there's also a lot of other ones that I keep finding as I'm walking up and down the river.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what's actually permitted and what needs to be inspected, and we may find some extras.
So the idea is to do testing, and then, what time frame would you retest?
There were some months and dates. Obviously, I can't test. It's 48 hours from a rainfall.
And then, so I guess my question is, you'll do a baseline test, and then when would you do a retest to see if the improvements are making any difference?
We haven't even started that process.
Okay.
Are there any other project updates that we need to talk about this afternoon?
Nothing that I'm aware of at this time.
Shelley, do you know the list of organizations that's listed on the agenda that Scott was responsible for? Do you recall what that was? Is that something we can remove from the agenda?
That would be up to the body. He wanted to have a list of partners, perhaps, of organizations, or even city, like the planning commission, the zoning board, of things that you all would be attending to report back on and to keep everyone updated. And I don't know if that's something you're prepared to do now, or if we should take it off.
All right, yeah, I was just curious what it was. Let me reach out to Scott. You can put my name down there behind that action item. So I'll take care of that, but I'll reach out to Scott and coordinate how we want to move forward with that going forward.
Yeah, that's something you may recall, David, that we did when I was chair.
I do remember that.
Initial list of groups that we thought we either already attended, as Ann said, she went to Smart Growth, so we put her down for Smart Growth. I went to 18th Wonder, so we put me down for 18th Wonder. And then a number of things nobody already regularly attended, so we assigned someone or the chair went. So I think it's useful to have that, because one of the things that was happening is multiple people would go only because they thought we as the EAC should know what's happening. So if we have someone who generally will regularly go, then that gives us an easy way to get updated.
Okay, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So I'll pick up the ball from Scott on that, and, whatever he was doing to maintain that list, I will assume that function going forward. Okay, well, we're just at about 1:20. Shelley, what's the process for a committee like ours going into executive session? Now, no members of the public are on the call today, but we have more than members. I mean, we have a council member on the call, and we have some city representatives. Who's allowed to stay on and who needs to exit the meeting at this point?
At this point, anyone who's not a member would go. And it would be up to the board whether or not they wanted to keep the council rep involved. Otherwise, city employees would also go unless their position is directly involved with the discussion. And I would stop recording, so this portion of the meeting would not be public.
Okay. So, I mean, my sense as the chair for this meeting is that Marcia should participate in this discussion. I clearly think you, Shelley, should participate as well. I'm not really clear on the other city representatives at this point, if their position impacts on this discussion or not. So maybe for the time being, we should simply be restricting this meeting to members, you, Shelley, and to Marcia.
I agree with you,
Anyone
Dave.
disagree with that? Okay, so I guess with that, then I'll ask anyone other than that small group to sign off for today. Before we sign off, thank you for participating today. And recall that we do not meet in July. So our next meeting of the EAC will be Tuesday, August the 10th. Shelley, is that also scheduled as a virtual meeting? Or are we going to be in person at a park?
Kathy recommended we meet at Eggleman's, so I can absolutely re-advertise and set that up if that's what we'd like to do. We'll have it outdoors. Bring a camp chair.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, that seems to be the preference. So let's plan on Eggleman's Tuesday, August the 10th at noon.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes, thank
Thank
you all
you.
for participating.
Yep. We'll wait a minute or so until everybody else signs off. All right. So it looks like